attention deficit disorder plus.
Say it again.
and just could not keep contact with anything. I was distracted by everything. Kirby and I were one time out in the congregation, and I remember my mother had to get up out of the choir, come down and sit between us in Alamosa.
Yeah.
We were wild children. We grew up on the Rio Grande River, literally.
Mm-hmm.
We would get up in the morning, and I had bib overalls. In the summertime, I'd wear bib overalls without any underwear because I could reach in there and play with myself when I was running, and it was awful. It was a freedom that you never experience otherwise.
It's a different world. It was a different world.
Things we learned.
We were free.
We were free. Saturday came during school or summer days. We'd go up and get maybe some of our friends and go up on the Rio Grande River and build a raft and go floating down the river.
And we couldn't swim.
and we get a fire and make.
One time, and this is one of my, and I'm going to write it down, and I really mean it when I say I experienced God, but I fell in a hole in the Rio Grande River, and I couldn't swim. And the other kids, Teddy Oba and Rudy Moth and all the rest of Kirby were all laughing at me because I was coming up out of the water and flailing and everything, and they thought I was really being funny. Well, I wasn't. I was drowning. And
come on! I saved you.
Yeah, I went down, and finally, I was down there, and I finally figured out I'm not going to get out of here until I crawl out, until I get a hold of those roots on the side and pull myself up out of the corner of that hole. And it was like a voice saying, "You're going to have to crawl out." And I swear.
No.
I believe you.
I don't know if it was God or Kirby that told me that.
But whichever it was, it saved you.
And we used to throw carp out of there, but he would get down there with pitchforks.
Oh gosh.
And Rudy Moth and Wendell and I, and then Rudy and Kirby the
This
big
was
boys.
on a small stream.
Irrigation ditches.
Irrigation.
And they'd be down there at the gate, and Wendell and I would shoot the fish down there, and they would get pitchforks and hit those big, and I swear you'd throw them out that big, wouldn't you?
Did you eat the carp?
Yeah.
The Japanese family.
The Japanese family loved the carps. And it was regular water. It wasn't bad water that they were in. It was good mountain streams, and they'd be very good, happy to have those.
Now I'm going to ask you for some advice, and you, because I'm going to an archivist today to talk about Nana's journals. We've just talked about bringing all of his journals, and I wanted to get some answers before I asked him. But he has a lot of these childhood stories written down.
Oh, good.
And if we archive them, and I don't know what happens, I'm going to figure it out.
Good.
But if there are particular stories that you want somebody to say, here it is, hear about these specific things, could they pull them?
Do you have the one about David, the Indian boy?
Davy?
David?
I don't, but we're going to have to find it in your tub, because I know it's there. And he wrote it already for a memoir.
I don't know where
We're going to have to find it. I have some really big versions of it I've seen, but you have a beautiful version about Davy and the drumbeat of death. He read it to our memoir group one time, and we're all like... And if I wrote my book, it was an adult story. He was an adult. Kirby was an adult.
No, I wasn't. Well, yeah, I was the
powerful story.
This Indian, the Kickapoos, and the chief Kickapoo had two sons, and they were the one was, the way they got up to what town did I live in?
Alamosa.
No,
No,
Horton.
Horton.
the school hadn't had kickapoo children in the school. They wouldn't let them in the school, so they all had to go to Oklahoma to school. And one day the chief, the football chief said somebody said those two boys down in Kickapoo, down in Texas, they're the best football players in that whole area. I said, let's get them. And then come home. And so they so they opened the whole door for everybody because
they wanted football players.
Yeah, they wanted football, and they were just boom. They really made that team a great team.
And Kirby taught him how to fly.
And well, yeah, and not as a brother. He wasn't doing it. But David, I taught him how to fly. And well, I'm
That's great. I'd like to hear some. I've never heard those stories. That's what I'm saying. I think we need to write personal stories down about things like that. I think that's really, really important.
But his death.
He died?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's. He had went. He couldn't get. He could fly fly a plane just perfect, but he couldn't do the work.
The paperwork.
He couldn't get it, do the paperwork, and it was a crisis. So he went ahead and got into the Army, and 2 years later he came back, and we went flying. He says, I can't do it. I talk to the people. No, he has to do all the
Paperwork.
Yeah, and he just drove that day and hit a bridge.
Killed himself.
Next morning, the Indians always. I didn't even know about it until all of a sudden there was a drumming sound from 6 miles away, and I went out to see what it was, and they had him in his uniform, and I mean his Indian thing, and
God,
The way you wrote it was just so powerful.
Well, that's sad. That's really sad.
You know, Rita, I've known several minister families, and most of them have had boys in them. I could never figure out why they were the most ornery.
Amen.
I don't know.
Amen.
He has
Look
2
at
daughters.
that.
They laugh at every service he would preach at, even as adults. They would be cracking up. My mom and Vicky. And I would be embarrassed as adults every time. At some point, they're like unconsolable laughing.
You know,
I can't imagine them as kids.
You know,
I didn't know them as kids, obviously.
Do you know Sissy's telephone number?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You want
I've got
to talk to John?
I keep trying to call because I want to talk to him
Uh-huh.
about some stuff.
Of course. She's my godmom.
Here, let me. I'm sorry. Let me look this up. Tell me if this is the right number because I'm calling it 402-239-8347.
Okay, let me find it.